All right. This video is for Gary. Can't see anything with these anyway. Maybe I'll take them off. Oh, wait, no, I can see my card. Let's see, what's it say? Yeah, so Gary says something about Huygens is this magical thing that makes everything cancel out, and so there's two photons. No, the photon nature and the wave nature are not unified. Huygens is way before photons, Gary. It's about how waves propagate. When they run into an object, it's about how they propagate after they run into an object. But if it's just a wave front, it's about how it travels. Now here's a weird thing. With Huygens, you look at the wave front as though, let's say you had a little bar that could drop, a million little droplets, and you dropped them. Things would ripple out, and what would happen is there'd be a wave front on one side. If, depending on how tiny the drops are, you might have little might not be perfectly straight, but if they were really, really tiny, it'd be straighter and straighter. It'd go off this way too. But here's an interesting thing about Huygens. When a wavefront is propagating, why, if it's a bunch of droplets there, why doesn't it go backwards? Well, in Huygens, the mathematical model of Huygens, which assumes continuity, which is a good approximation since there's so many billion, trillions of water molecules, it does go backwards. But see, a wave just came that way. And the water on its own would keep going like this forever. The water would just oscillate up and down. The wave would oscillate and it's going up and down forever. But see, the backward wave from the Huygens comes through there and it perfectly cancels it out. So it gets still again. So mathematically, you can see, if you run the simulation based on the Huygens principle, that the wavefront keeps moving forward. The end result of all of the interference has nothing to do. It never breaks down to two photons. With the double slit, the quantum mechanical view is the wave is the more real thing. Yes, you can put up videos like Heiteladay has of some physicists going, no, it's all really the particles. Fine, good for them. In terms of the straightforward mathematical explanation we have so far, it's all waves. The wave front hits both slits. And it's an infinite number of these imaginary photons that could have been. And one photon makes a little speck on the screen. That's the particle behavior. In terms of the mathematics that guides what the behavior will be over a statistical sample, that's where the wave comes in. That's where we see that, look, it looks like a wave. So when you look at it closely, it looks like everything's a wave. You act like that's impossible, but when you drop a pebble in the water, a ripple goes out. Ripples are possible, ripples. And there's no reason light couldn't be a ripple, and it looks like a ripple because it diffracts and refracts and reflects rather than collides. Right? That's not hard to believe that a ripple exists, and it could be that kind of thing. And it looks like it is. The weird thing is it also looks like a particle. Overall, light looks like a wave. Overall, electrons look like particles. But the electrons have some wave-like behavior, and the photons have particle-like behavior. That's why, yes, there are some paradoxes. And you can't just say, well, we assume the paradox can't be true. That's our solution. The other thing I wanted to say is you denied saying we don't have an answer. In fact, in your videos, you say this all the time. You say we won't even bother to answer that. You say this, the problem with the long path. We won't even bother. It's by time dilation. And yeah, okay, you don't want to have one of the observers on Earth? Great. Two observers traveling like this. Not back and forth, but just like this. each person sees the time on the other ship as slowed down. And this makes perfect sense if you just assume it's because as the ship passes, the light has to take us longer and longer, so they're seeing further and further in the past. And if you see somebody and then it's further and further in the past, it looks slow. Things like that could explain it, except for if one of the ships makes a U-turn and matches the other, you could see there really was a time difference, and that's why you have a problem with the GPS, satellites, etc. With the experiments that have been done with atomic clocks. You do say we don't answer, right? But you know the answer, and it's time for you to admit we give an answer that you don't like, and then you'd have to focus on what it is you don't like instead of pretending we don't answer these things, and at least your system that's made up out of whole cloth answers them, so it's got that going for it. The other ones don't even know we answer that. We answer how the long path works. We answer about how both people see each other as going slower, and how if one did a U-turn, the Lorentz, it's a higher dimensional thing that allows for one thing to be true in this reference frame and a different thing to be true in this reference frame. These events were simultaneous. In this reference frame, the events weren't. That's allowed. How is it all correlated? Through a mathematical system that involves time and space dilation and mass dilation as well, mass distortion. That's our answer. It does exist.